another episode of Coast to Coast Horror with me, your host, Crystal Connor, a trusted name in terror, and...
Hi, I'm Lady Shasha, the mistress of the snark.
Hi guys. We're super happy that you guys came to hang out with us for another episode. This is something that we're going to be doing from now on. This episode is going to be a little bit different than the ones that we introduced you to with the 3-part series. This is going to be, just one and then episode after episode like that. So today we have reviewed 2 movies that are similar and could very possibly be a remake, except for it's the other way around. It's an international remake of an American horror story from the 1970s. And so, as you guys know who follow Lady Sasha, she always does, if you like this movie, you'll probably like this movie. And so this is how we came up with this episode. So the movie I am going to be reviewing for you guys is the 1977 movie called The Pack. And Lady Sasha is going to be reviewing...
I'm going to be reviewing White God.
White God. And
it's a Hungarian movie, I believe.
It's from Hungary. Yeah. When we were talking about it on our last episode, I said it was from Germany, but somewhere over in Europe, but it sounds like it's from Hungary. So The Pack opens up. One of the things that I like a lot about 1970s horror movies and other older movies are practical effects. And so this movie opens up on a horse in the meadow, and he hears something in the distance, and then he bolts off running. And what happens is we see all these dogs chasing this horse, and there's no CG. Where the camera is sitting, you see all the dogs running right past, and then this pack of dogs kills and eats the horse. But what they really did, which was really a really good directing scene, is they stood on the ground and filmed looking up at the horse, and the horse is neighing and bucking, and so you get the suggestion that these dogs have brought this horse down, maybe like a pack of lions, in bringing down a buffalo, but in the United States. And they don't show that, and it's a pretty horrific scene because the directors leave it up to your imagination. So that's how this story opens, right? We have this domesticated horse that's been killed by a pack of dogs. The next thing that's really pivotal in the 1977 Pack is Bobby. He is one of the tourists who had come to stay on the island during the summer, and he has a dog, but his dad is telling him that he has to tie the dog to the tree because they had got it from the pound for the summer, and now that they're going back to the city, they're not taking the dog with them. And his dad is like, he'll be okay. Someone will come along and untie him and take care of him, and he'll be fine. It's okay. So we have this opening scene where this little boy is going back to the city without his dog that he loved and played with for the whole entire summer. So that kind of sets the tone of what comes next. So our main character, Jim, who is a marine biologist, he has a son. He is dating, I can't remember her name, Millie, who also has a son, and they're blending their families together. And so he's building her a house. They all go up to the house, and the boys want to spend the night at Jim's house. And she's like, okay, you can do that. I'll see you guys at my house for dinner. And so as they're going home, they have a dog named Riley. So this is main character dog number 1, Riley. He's a German Shepherd. Bobby's dog is going to be significant later. There's another German Shepherd in the story who was a seeing eye dog for a blind man. And then the third dog of relevance is the leader of the pack. And so when they are looking for firewood, so they go out to the junkyard looking for firewood, and Riley chases a rabbit up the hill. Now, when I was telling you guys about this on our part 2 of our 3-part series, I thought that Riley had got bit by a rabbit because it had been so long since I've seen this movie. But when I watched it again for this episode, he didn't get bit by the rabbit. He got bit by the leader of the pack. And so he comes back down the hill limping, and he's hurt. He's got a giant chunk pulled out of his little forearm. And Jim, who's a big alpha guy, he's not really afraid of anything. He tells the boys to put the dog in the truck, and he goes up to see what happened. And he comes face to face with the alpha pack dog, right? He doesn't know it's a pack yet. He just thinks it's that one dog. And so he's like, shoo, get out of here. And most dogs, stray dogs, will run when people do that. But this dog was like, you can come up here if you want to. And so Jim's like, oh, okay, this isn't good. Like, this guy is way gone. And so he's yelling to the boys, you know, get back into the car, stay in the car, I'm coming back down. And he doesn't turn his back on that dog. He backs away from him slowly so that he's not provoked. And so that is how the scene opens up. So as the movie goes along, we find out that that dog is not a lone dog. There's a whole pack of them. And how we find out that there's a pack is because Jim's girlfriend is Millie, and she goes home and the geese are like, oh my God, something's out here. And she's like, what's going on with the geese? And so when she goes outside, there's that dog that Jim had encountered. But as the camera pans around, all the dogs come out and they're standing behind him waiting for his orders. And there is a Cujo moment in this movie because he's got a little yellow car and he runs from this dog. They all converge on the car and they're nuts. Like, they're like trying to break through the window. She's got like a soft cloth. So one black dog is ripping the top off of this little yellow car. And like when she has like the window is like this much cracked and the dog is putting his nose in it, it is like absolutely, I don't know which movie, maybe Cujo took that scene from this movie, but it was just like.
Yeah, because I think Cujo came out in the 80s and this was 1977.
Yeah, so like
definitely.
It was just like, I think that scene, that one scene where she's in her yellow bug must have been inspired by the pack. And so Jim comes up and he gets there just in time because the black dog ripped off the top of her car, and then you hear gunshots, and then they all disperse. So now Jim knows he's dealing with a whole pack of dogs. The ferryman is gone. He's not coming back until Monday or Tuesday, depending on the weather. So now they have a problem. This is absolutely an enclosed environment movie because they can't get off the island. We've got one group of tourists who are there for the weekend. They're the only people who are non-locals. And so Jim has to get everyone on the island in a safe place to deal with these animals. One thing that I was thinking about the family that was staying there for the weekend, they brought their son, and then they brought, like way back in the day, sometimes dads would hire prostitutes to have their son have a first experience with the sexual.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
I kind of feel like that was going on. I think maybe he might have been gay or just a late bloomer, but they bring this cute little ditzy blonde along. And they always, the adults always find ways to leave these two kids alone, but nothing really happens until it's too late. And I'll explain that in a minute. So Jim is warning the people on the island that, you know, we have a problem. And he wants everybody to get to the store, because like they can board it up, they can like have everyone accounted for. But because they're trying to get their son to be a man, they send up these two kids off on a hike, and they encounter the pack of dogs. And that was some 70s parenting. I'm sorry to cut you off, but they said, go play out in the woods. They said, go play out in the woods, collect some wood for the fire. Oh, and stay away from the cliffs. Right. And there was cliffs around. I'm not sending my child to play by cliffs. Like, right. It's the 70s. Right. Going out on those like green machines with no helmets on. We were like, remember the swings? We would swing really high and off of it. Or kids don't do that. Our playgrounds. Right. One of the elementary schools I went to, because growing up, I went to like 8 different schools, but one of the elementary schools I went to, the monkey bars were these metal bars, and it was on top of cement. So you fell off of that, you're breaking your arm or something. It wouldn't have the wood chips and the plastic stuff they have today. And we were always doing Olympic style stunts. Like, remember, like one leg, and we were spinning around with no hands, and oh my God, I can't believe we even made it to adulthood. Like, oh my God. Anyway, they send these guys out into the woods, and they encounter the pack. And these death scenes, I was absolutely happy with his death scene because of what he did. And we'll just leave it there. Okay, we'll just leave it there. So let's go back to Bobby's dog, because now Bobby's dog comes into the scene. This dog has chewed loose the tie that held her, and she is wandering around, and she sees all the pack. She sees them run by her, so she follows them, and they have commandeered a barn. So like there's like maybe 15 to 20 dogs in this barn. And again, with the 70s horror movies, the acting has to be top shelf. So we have this dog, and again, it's also showing the problem solving dogs have, and the problem it becomes once they turn against us. So she's running with a cord still tied around her neck. So when she's trying to get into the barn, the cord gets stuck. And so she has to go back under the fence and like really figure out how to get out of that predicament, because it's starting to rain and she's all by herself. And so she goes into the barn, but not all the way, right? Because there's 15 dogs in there, and she's sitting right at the door, and she's like, "Can I come in?" And then the pack leader goes over, he's like, "Yeah, come on in." And so this is how Bobby's dog becomes part of the pack. And I really do believe that this was this dog's story, and I'll tell you why as I keep going. So now she's part of this pack, right? The seeing eye dog, because it starts to rain and it stops and they go out to hunt. So the seeing eye dog is like, there's something out here. And of course the blind guy he doesn't know what's going on. And she's like really riled up. Like she's at the window, she's at the door, and he opens the door to say who's out there, and away she charges into the night. And at first the fight is just one dog on one, which she might have had a chance, but dogs hunt in a pack, and she was not part of their pack. And so that takedown scene is really hard to watch, even though you feel for the pack, but like she was totally outnumbered. And now this guy, he can't see, he doesn't have his dog. He can't see, but he's got a shotgun. So he goes back into the house and he feels around, he gets a shotgun and he shoots into the fight. One dog is dead, his dog is dead, and then they exact revenge. And this is where I think practical effects can be so chilling, because as this pack takes this man down, there are no special effects. They're up close, he's flailing. You can see them repositioning themselves to get a better advantage to bring him down. And once he's on the ground, that's it. Like, that's it, he's done. So now we've got, these two guys are dead. We've got two kids in the woods missing, and the family from the city who was spending the weekend freaking out because they're like, "Go out there and get my kids." And he was like, "Why did you send them out in the woods? Like, I'm not going anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere. We've got a pack of dogs and it's dark outside. We're not doing anything until the daytime." So in the daytime, the girl who was brought with the family to seduce the little boy, he's not a little boy, he's like 17, between the ages of like maybe 19 to 22. And so was she. So she's alone in the woods, and she fell into this like a trough of water and mud, and again with the 70s movie. So she comes up full of mud. The next scene, she's got a clean face, wet, wavy hair. Like, come on, guys, she just flew, right? And so she finds the barn, and she's like, "Okay, well, at least I'm now out in the rain." But when she falls asleep, after the dogs have killed the blind man and his seeing eye dog, they come back home. And so when she wakes up, there they all are in the doorway, and he's like, "Why are you in my home?" That kill scene is also horrific. So now it's the daytime. Jim is like trying to figure out what to do. They all converge. They find during this time, Jim finds the horse, and now everyone realizes that it was the pack that killed the horse. Jim finds, I don't think they ever found the boy, but he found the girlfriend, and now everyone is in this store. And basically these dogs create siege warfare. Like, it's insane. And I'm not going to give too much away from there, because this is where this movie like ratchets it up, and this is where the kill scene is done. Because of the practical effects, there's a scene in the fight scene with Riley and one of the pack dogs. Like, it was like watching one of the scenes in 300, because like the camera was like right there, the dogs were like on their hind legs, and they weren't joking. Like, and one of the city guys was able to get that black dog away by opening an umbrella through the window, but they were just like, here we come. So they're under siege, and Jim devises a plan to get everybody else out the house, and there's only 2 of them there, and that's kind of how this movie like wraps up. And so the last dog standing is Bobby's dog, because she couldn't get into the house because she is still running around with that leash on her, and as they're all charging into the house, her leash gets caught on a log, so she can't get in. So she's the last dog. And Jim, well, one of the guys was going to try and kill the dog, but Jim's like, hold on. And he approaches the dog and starts to like make sure that she knows that he's okay, she's safe. He gives the dogs a cracker, and that's how that movie ends, is with this animal again trusting a human. And the reason I say that this was her movie is because if she was able to trust Jim again, her whole life is going to be turned over into, but in a good way. She wasn't as far as the dogs who were in the pack, but she had bonded with them to where that was her family. And all through the movie, because I think this, remember when you were in our episode or 1 or 2, when we were talking about this movie and you were saying it was kind of social commentary, it kind of was, because all through the movie, Jim was, and even his sons were justifying these animals' behavior, because they're like, God, for them to eat a horse, they must be starving. God, for them to like be coming to the, acting like this, they must be starving. And so it was social commentary. And the reason I believe that it was, even though she didn't have that many parts, she's the dog that started the movie on a sad note. And it was even more sad because, the people left her. She joined a pack who they loved and protected her. She watched what happened, and the man who did it is coming towards her, but he's still being gentle. After everything that they went through for that weekend, he is still being gentle towards this dog. And so that's why I think it was her story, just because it ends and begins with her.
And the commentary, the people getting dogs over the summer, and then by the time the summer's over, just leaving them abandoned on the island. It kind of reminds me of, I've seen some news stories about, I think it's like a month to 3 months after Christmas time, how many dogs and cats are dropped off at the pound because they gave, children these pets for Christmas, and then only 3 months later they no longer want to take care of them.
It's so devastating. My dog is a rescue, and I'm her 4th owner. And dogs are pack animals. And because I'm her 4th owner, I'm going to get all emotional. Whew, hold on. The trauma a dog goes through when it is given up for adoption or removed from their pack is bad. Like, my dog's separation anxiety when I first got her was so bad that she would be like shaking in the corner, just shivering. And every time I would like go to check the mail, she would wail and howl and whine because she thought she was leaving. And then this is like so horrible. About 8 months after I had her, like she had like a sleeping bag, a favorite toy, and then I had given her 2 toys and a blanket, right? And so about 8 months, she was like piling all her belongings by the door. And I called my vet and I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I've never read or heard about this behavior. And luckily, we had the same vet through all 4 of us. And my vet told me, she's like, oh, this is about the time that she's been given up, 8 months. And I was like, she thinks she's leaving? Like,
yeah.
this dog isn't going anywhere. And I like call my mom, and my mom's like, bring my grandbaby over here so that I can give her some treats. Like, it's a big deal. It's psychologically damaging.
People have to understand what they do to animals. The way that I got my cat was that he was sleeping under my car for like probably went up to 2 weeks.
Wow.
And my ex-husband was feeding the cat, and he said, if no one comes to get this cat, I'm going to bring it in the house. So eventually, bringing the cat in the house, I took it to the vet. The vet said, oh, this cat's about 6 to 8 months old. So it wasn't even a full-grown cat. And it was so skittish and very jumpy, like as if, I don't know whether it was, well, now I know. When I first got it, I didn't know whether it had been abused. Because a lot of times people will say, oh, cats are mean. It's like, no, they're not mean. Sometimes they have had abusive owners. And then when they meet new people, they will be extremely standoffish or scared of you because of that abuse. My sister has some cats that she's had them since they were born. And they are like the sweetest lap kitties that lay on their back. You can hold them like babies because they trust. Right, they haven't been abused, they haven't been hurt, so they're very trusting. The other thing that people don't realize about cats is cats have 24 less muscles in their faces than dogs. So they can't do like this with their brows, they can't make so many facial expressions. So you have to look at the position of their ears or how their tail's moving to see whether they're scared, whether they're happy, or whether they're bashful.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, but it took months to get that cat to just trust and not be like this every time you walk by it. And my ex-husband ran into the former owner at a Wawa's, and she said that, oh, that cat scratched my furniture, so I drove around the corner and threw it out of my car. Sweet. And he said if she hadn't been a woman, he would have fought her, because that's such an evil thing to do.
And speaking of evil and pets, like when I took Sierra to get spaded, it took longer than normal because she had so much scar tissue. She had been kicked so hard that one of her ovaries collapsed. And when he told me that, I was like, I want to know who had my dog before me. I want you to tell me now. And he's like, there's no way I can tell you that because one, no, I'm not going to be responsible for you going to jail. And he's like, and if you go and do something, then what's going to happen to your dog? He's like, okay, because she's where she needs to be now, like where she needs to be now. And, I've had her now for like 7 years and still like sometimes when I'm in a riding zone, like I'll be 3-4 days of doing nothing and I've hired dog walkers. And when they come and put her on a leash and they're trying to take her out, she freaks out because she thinks she's getting given away. And so like it took a long time for the walker now to be like, I'm always going to bring you back. She can't live without you. Like it's a big deal. I think people should really, 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 really
pay close attention to
think about like adopting or bringing an animal into the home, because it's like a child. You're not going to.
It really is.
Like you're not going to get it away.
It's like a toddler. It's like it, and they get, just like how a child gets sick, they can get sick too. They can catch colds. They can have urinary tract infections. You're taking on a big responsibility. It's not just a living toy to play with.
Right, and they are going to chew your shoes, and they're going to have an attitude. They're, they're like sentient beings, right? Sometimes Sarah's like, I'm not getting, no, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, but she's expressing her personality. So like, yeah, that, okay. So
the funniest surprise about my cat is that it has long hair. It's a long hair Norwegian forest cat.
Ooh.
And his name was originally Princess. So we took it to the vet, and the vet was like, you know this is a male, right? And we were like, oh, okay. Well, I guess he can't be Princess anymore, so now he's Percival.
I like it. I like it. Oh my God.
But because of the long hair, you didn't see like his other parts. Like,
oh my God. All right. So let's get into your movie.
While my note is loading, I always grew up having pets. Like I can't think of a time. The only time I can think of when I didn't have a pet was literally when I was in a college dormitory and I couldn't have a pet. But other than that, like my parents grew up with pets. My father grew up on a farm, so it's like he always has to have not just one. There's usually two or
Several
three dogs,
Yeah.
which is good because they play together really well. Shout out to everybody in the pandemic that has an old ass phone. That's just look at it. It's still it's loading. From my notes.
Is that an Apple?
No, this is an Android.
I'm an Android kid too, so I'm with you.
Like I got nothing against Apple. Like obviously I did on Apple sometimes, and I have an iPad that I read comic books on. But for phones, nah, I don't mess with the iPhone. When Android, I will just say I prefer it. I don't want to say it's better because I hate people that get into the Android versus Apple thing. It's just a preference. It's just a preference. I prefer the way the Android phone works.
Me too. But I do have an iPod, but like that's just for the car. But yeah. And I need to like try and figure out what my Apple password and username is so that I can like connect it to the cloud, so I don't have to like plug it in.
I've changed my Apple ID like 14 times because I always forget it. My note open up. I can try to do this from memory, but I don't want to miss anything. I had such really great notes.
Just wait for them to load.
Look at Evernote. Playing with me.
Jeez. How much did you write?
I didn't write that much. Or is it my cell phone service? Because Evernote is a online program. So it could be my cell service. When I was live streaming yesterday, the internet kicked me off. But it was at the very beginning of the show.
Oh,
all right. They finally came up.
All right.
The movie White God starts with a very impactful opening sequence with this little girl that's riding this bicycle. She's pedaling really fast. And the opening almost reminded me of 28 Days Later because of how empty the city looked at that point. And then you see the dogs, maybe just a couple dogs following her. And then the shot opens up and you see like hundreds of dogs following her and the music just swells and it's like emotional from the beginning. That was just an amazing opening. And then it jumps to
how we got there.
How we got there. It doesn't tell the exact time frame, but from looking at the events in the movie, it really only seems like about a week and a half to 2 weeks of a time frame. We're introduced to her father, who doesn't seem to have any real respect for animals. Like he works at a meat processing plant and like he literally sees animals as just meat. Even when he cooks dinner for her, it's just all meat. I didn't see the vegetables or
not a salad.
He just fried up some meat. And he also mistreats the dog. Like he was very, I'm not sleeping with the dog in the same room as me. Like it's not even like the dog was on the bed with him. The dog was just in the same room with him. And he was like, I'm not sleeping with the dog in here, and locks the dog in the bathroom. And the way he even took it to the bathroom, he grabbed the dog by the collar and lifted it up, and it kind of like chokes on the dog. And the daughter ends up sleeping in the bathtub just to keep quiet the dog down because the dog was whimpering in the bathroom all night. But the almost worst character is the neighbor lady who lied. She called the authorities and lied and said that the dog bit her when the dog, was never even close to the dog. She only visually saw the dog going into the apartment, and she kind of starts off a chain of events that make
forces
the situation
the dad's hand. But like when he was like complaining about the dog, he was kind of protective over the dog. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, so his perspective on dogs was like weird because he was annoyed that the dog was there, but then when he started on with her tangent, he's like, that's not what happened. Like my dog is safe, it's with my daughter, like what are you going on about? So like,
especially since he didn't want to play it fine,
like defending the dog.
And then one of the things I noticed the movie illustrates is how in certain parts of the world dogs are not provided for as far as just being part of society. Like there's a scene where she had snuck the dog into her music class with her, and it made me think of all the places and situations where they just don't make it conducive to being a pet owner. And one of those situations is just within the apartment, like telling him that he had to pay a fine. I was in a situation before I left Connecticut. I had a small dog. It was like a Pomeranian, half poodle. And had a horrible time just trying to find an apartment that took dogs. Not even taking a dog with what do they call it, a pet deposit.
Mm-hmm.
They just flat out no dogs at all, to the point where in order for me to find a place to live, I had to bring the dog to my parents' house, and they just kept the dog, for the rest of its life. And I ended up coming down to Florida. But just that, and then circling back to the girl taking the dog with her to the music class, the music teacher was just so disgusted that the dog was there, and the dog didn't even really do anything bad. It wasn't, it wouldn't have been destructive if they just treated it like a dog and set it in the corner. And it reminded me of this video that I saw on YouTube. It was just a regular video of this band playing, and they were playing this Japanese song called Elastic Heart, which was like a big hit in the 80s. I have to send you the video. It's really cool. But the band is playing, and the dog is just sitting there while the band is playing. And it's no big deal. It's in like a Japanese cafe. It's no big deal. The dog is sitting there, band's playing music.
Or like the video of the cat that disrupted the orchestra. Did you see that one? They're in like a major amphitheater, like where you pay to go sit to watch an orchestra with your ties and your, roomie. And a cat strolls up, and everyone's cheering, and the cat is like, how cats do, the conductor's legs. She's rubbing up against the cellist. And then it's laying there listening to the music. Like no one is tripping over that cat. And like how you were saying in Connecticut, you couldn't even find a place for your dog. Here in Seattle, some places make you pay pet rent. So you have to pay a pet deposit, and then you're paying like $95 a month for your pet. But like, why? Are you providing a dog sitting? Are you cleaning up the yard? Like what? How are you paying $95 for a dog? Like, I don't get it.
It's just ridiculous. I did like how in Winter Park, Florida, when you go to, there's like an area called Park Avenue that has all these little boutiques, and they used to have just different stations where they would leave out water for the dogs, like if you're walking with your dog. And most of the restaurants, since they have sidewalk cafes, you can sit at the restaurant, and if you want to order something for your dog, you can order for. I thought that was kind of cool. But most of the people
Morocco,
that go there,
they feed the strays. Like after everything's over, like if you don't take your food home, they they save it, and then like after they clean up, they feed the dogs. And then there's this guy that went viral in Israel, I think, because at the end of the day, he lets all the stray dogs, he prepares a meal for them, and he lets them sleep in the store. Like, and so I think what makes these two movies a little bit jarring is because we as pet lovers can't imagine people doing this to an animal. Or, you know what I mean? So I think
it gets worse.
It does. Go ahead.
It's just so not necessary to be so anti-dog.
Right.
Like I can't even say unless you've been hurt, because my brother, it was before I was born. He's older than me, but he has a scar on his forehead where he was bit by a German Shepherd when he was 5. He's never been afraid of dogs. I would have been afraid. Like if that happened to me, I'd probably be afraid of dogs, but he's not.
I was little. I think I might have been like 2 or 3, and I got bit in the mouth by a Situ, a little, those little white dogs. And so, and I don't remember this. This is what my parents said. I bit the dog back, and so the dog owners were so mad. They're like, "Your little beast bit the dog." And my dad, he was bit.
The only animal that I've been bitten by was a turtle, and it's I'm sorry, but like I said, my father grew up on a farm. My mother always had dogs growing up. We always had a house full of animals, so we always had like 2 or 3 dogs. Always had, my younger sister always had a cat. I had a rabbit at one time. I had a parakeet. My dad had a black raven named Osiris.
Holy
we had
crap.
a garden snake. We had a fish tank. My youngest baby sister had hamsters. By the time when she got old enough, she wanted hamsters. And I had a turtle, but it was a snapping turtle. And I was looking at it, and I didn't realize, I was like 11 years old, and realized that turtle peeked his head out and bit me right on my lip. And I was running around with a turtle hanging off my lip.
Was it small at the time?
Yeah, it was little. It was like this size. I had to release it back into like the Connecticut River once it got a certain size, because otherwise you can't keep them, because they can get big. They can get like this big. But yeah,
Can't believe
Always had some type of pets between, especially since there's 5 of us. Yes, my brother and 4 sisters, and we each got to, choose what animals that we wanted.
That's kind of.
Oh, and forgot about the horses too. I took horseback riding lessons when I was in high school.
Obviously, because you're on a farm. You can't have a farm without horses. You just can't.
Well, I didn't grow up on a farm. My dad grew up on a farm. He just kept his farm ways. and the lady that I used to take the horseback riding lessons from was one of his school friends from where he grew up. We would always go to see his friends that he went to high school with, because they took over their parents' farms. Look at that dog.
I know.
Look at her.
My baby.
Does she have jackets and stuff?
Yep, she does. Don't you follow me on she even she has on her Facebook, she has her own Facebook, so you'll see her clothes.
Oh, I didn't see that. I have to find her Facebook. My sister's dog has it. My sister has what we thought was a Pomapoo, because when she received it, she was told it was half Pomeranian, half poodle. But I kept looking at this dog. I'm like, that doesn't look like that's what that is. So I thought it was half Chihuahua and half Pomeranian.
Yeah, this is a fox rat terrier. She's a little bit big.
It turns out that when she took the dog to, I guess she went to get it allergy tested, because it ended up having allergies, and it was half Pomeranian, half Lhasa Apso.
What?
Yeah, still a little tiny thing. It's smaller than my cat. It's like a little thing. And she has a full wardrobe. Like Stella has dresses and coats and all kinds of stuff. Oh, where was I? I got sidetracked. Sorry.
The bathroom.
I was talking about the evil neighbor who starts everything. Yes, I was talking about the dog in the classroom in the music area, and I was just thinking that's actually more harmful to the dog than to anyone else because of their acute hearing. So if maybe the music was too loud, it might bother them. But other than that, they could have made.
That's not what happened. Remember?
Oh no, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying in general, for dogs to be around bands, to me, I don't think it would be a problem unless the music was too loud for the dog. Yeah, I'm just saying, not in the movie. I'm just saying in general.
Because if the dog had been sitting next to her, he would have just been around.
Yeah, it would have been just chilling.
Because especially she had the dog before she went to her father's house, and she was already playing the
dog. It was a trumpet. The dog was used to her playing the trumpet.
Right. And so
we'll come back to that at the end, but the father ends up being upset with his daughter, and he puts the dog out on the side of the highway. And the dog, at this point, we see a lot of the movie from the dog's perspective, which was really, really ingenious, because they found a way to really have character development for a dog.
Yep.
And you see how this dog, I think the dog's name is Hagan.
Yes, Hagan. Yes, that's the
And how he changed, how his personality changed. He changed from being such a lovable and trusting dog to the things that he went through, like first being alone, and you could see how scared he was on the side of the highway, just trying to cross the road with the cars going by, and then trying to find his way home and not being able to find his way home, and then going by the butcher because he smells the food and not being able to get food. And then we're introduced to his co-star, which is like the little Jack Russell Terrier. She was like his little like his friend, almost girlfriend, because she was kind of like, okay, I see you're alone on the streets. I'm gonna show you how to survive on these streets.
That's exactly what she did, and she brought him to the pack.
She brought him to the pack,
ravine thing where they all lived.
And they all just accepted him and showed him how to get around, and he was doing.
Who would be mean to them?
Yeah, she would always bark like a warning at him to let him know, hey, don't go that way, go this way. And then we get to a point where, how did he get captured? I'm trying to remember. Oh, I remember the dog catchers were chasing after him, and the homeless man hid him
under a blanket.
So he trusted the homeless man, hiding him under the blanket, but then the homeless man took him and sold him to a dog fighter. And that was like the most difficult sequence of watching what the dog trainers do to get the dogs ready to fight, to break their trust and to make them mean. And they did as far as he was pumping him with steroids and feeding him like Stacker 2 supplements. And filing. He knocked him out and filed his teeth sharper. It was just
and it was
horrible.
all through that dog's point of view. So like
Yes, from the dog's point of view.
Tranquilizer, the camera starts to blur around the edges.
Yeah.
And you can see like he's like losing, and so he's like laying out on the ground, and we can just see the dog catchers, or not the dog catchers, but the dog fighters feet around, and then his eyes start to blur, and that's a long sequence. I think it's like about, I want to say like maybe 15 minutes of the movie, minutes of the movie, and the treatment is just horrific. It's horrific.
Yeah, you feel so bad. Like I almost didn't finish the movie. I was like, I don't know whether I'm gonna do it. One good thing about it though was in the actual dog fighting scene, having had dogs and having multiple dogs, you could tell that those dogs were playing, but they've tried to edit it and they added the sound and post to make it seem like they were fighting.
Yeah.
But if you've had multiple dogs, you've seen dogs frolic like this in the park, and you know that when they nip at each other and they're just playing. So at least it wasn't the type of carnage that they could have shown. They could have really made it look really, really terrible. Like the scene was still effective. Like you could tell what they were trying to illustrate was, dogs being forced to fight each other and one of the dogs winning, one of the dogs losing. But at least I knew watching it that those dogs were not harmed. And
you had to watch it twice too, because the first time you watched it, you were like, but then you almost have to like pay attention because you're like, please, dear God, no. And you're like, you know what I mean? I didn't do that because I know those dogs are actors. So I just allowed myself to stay in the scene with it. But it was a horrific, that block of time in Haggood's life was really, really hard to watch, like really hard to watch. And they got what they deserved, the people. That's I thought
this movie was exceptionally done. Like this is one of the best movies I can say I've ever seen. They gave, like I said, with the character development, they gave the dog more character development than a lot of modern horror movies give human characters.
Yeah, because that movie was about him, right? So it had to have been told by his point of view and the things that they went through. And so, yeah. Yep. And
I have to admit, I shed a tear at the end of this movie.
So did I. I was on the floor.
Yeah.
I was just like...
It was also amazing how they were able to get so many canine actors together, because this movie actually had 274 dogs. And so
how they did that is they used all the dogs from the local pounds. And by the end of the movie, all of those dogs were adopted.
Yes, I read that. And they also set a world record for most dogs in a movie.
Yeah. And then like, I don't know if you guys, like if you stream it, you might not be able to watch the DVD extras, but there are like, and those, I love the behind the scenes, but like, some of those chase scenes where the camera is sitting like, and there are some scenes in White Dog where you can feel the stampede of the dogs because they sit the camera down and then they back away. So like, however the dogs are running past is what happens. But when you watch the DVD pick of the week, there were trainers. So one trainer had like 12 dogs. And so there was whistles, there were flags and treats all over the place. And so they were just like following it was incredible the way that they got all these dogs to act together. It's such a good movie.
Since I watched it streaming, I didn't get to see any of the extras. Did they expound upon why the name of the movie is White God?
No, but remember, I was thinking that maybe that this was a remake of the 1977 The Pact, because Haggard is not white. But if you look at the cover of on the VHS of the Pact,
the
cover with all the white dogs. So the dogs are in white, and then the cover is in black. And so and you've seen both movies, I'm kind of thinking it might have been a remake.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a better remake than the Pack remake, because I actually saw the Pack remake before seeing the original. Because I didn't know at the time. I didn't know it was a remake.
The one that was in Australia.
Yeah, it was around 2011 or.
Nope, I knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
but they messed that movie up because all those dogs were uniform. They're black, militarized looking dogs, and I think that took away from the terror of having a pack of pets try to like, you know, rip your jugular out. Like, you know what I mean?
They also took out the element of social commentary.
Yeah.
Like with the pack, you have the social commentary of people abandoning animals, and with White God, you have the both abandonment and abuse of animals, and just disrespect of animals. The remake of the pack, there was none of that. It was just, oh, be afraid of these crazy dogs. That's it.
Yeah. So when I saw and it's even called the pack, so I knew that it was a remake. But because of the way that the trailer was, I was like, I'm not even gonna bother watching.
Yeah, it's not worth watching.
I'm glad that I didn't.
Another thing I really like about White God is that it has 3 distinct acts. The first act establishes the character of the daughter and her father and the dog and what they're going through, and their struggles. The second act establishes the world they live in and the cruelty and indifference that they treat animals with. And then the third act is when the animals take everything into their own hands and they exact their revenge on human beings that have been mistreating them, neglecting them, and abusing them. I think it is a remake due to the fact of just certain elements that are the same. The father making the daughter leave the dog. In the pack, you have the father making the son tie the dog to a tree and leave. And then in White God, you have the father dropping the dog off on the side of the road or highway, and the daughter, being just as sad as the little boy from the pack was.
Right.
The pack congregating. In the pack, they had the barn, they commandeered the barn. And then White God, they had like this little area that kind of...
it was kind of like a landfill almost.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a
landfill that they had to squeeze through the gate to get in. And then once they were there, it was like their
sanctuary.
Safe place, because they were playing and drinking water, and Haggard and his girlfriend would sit up on the ridge and look all down. And then there was also in their in that area there were also lookouts. So like while there's all these dogs playing and sunning and just doing dog things, there were also dogs on watch. So they were sitting on the ridge line.
Yeah, the terrier was sitting up.
And then the minute the dog catchers came, they would give the alarm and all the dogs would like take off. So it was absolutely
the dogs are up on the hill like, woohoo, 5-0.
And then everyone's like, looks, and then they take off running. Yeah.
And the endings of the 2 movies. As you described the pack, you have the first dog, I forget the collie that was acting like her pack and acting a little bit I don't want to use the term rabbit because she wasn't rabbit, but defensive. We'll say she's acting defensive. And the very
Especially
end,
after she saw what happened.
Yes. And the very end, the gentleman gives her a cracker and he's calming her down and trying to get her trust again. And then it ends on the shot of her licking his hand, showing trust. At the ending,
I'm still scared because her ears were back in her tail.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's not quite there yet, but she's being shown kindness again.
The end of White God, Hagan, he still is a little bit defensive and not really trying to go back to the way he was with his former owner until the little girl starts playing her trumpet for him again. And then I guess you can see kind of the emotion on the dog's face of how that made him feel safe. And then he lays down and she lays down next to him and all the other dogs lay down. And then the army
of dogs behind him lay down too.
All lay down, yeah.
And
I was just
dad was just like, okay.
He went over and laid down.
Yes. He's like, I fucked this all the way up. So, when I was watching White God, I was immediately reminded of the pack because of the similarities. Like, it's just like, and you guys know who, like, if you guys follow me and watch my reviews and listen to my rants, I do not like American remakes of international films, but as far as I can tell, this is the very first international remake of an American film, and they knocked it out the park. Not to take anything away from the pack, because it was shot in the 70s, and so it was almost insurmountable to shoot that movie from the collie's point of view, especially since it's a horror movie and we needed an all-American hero, and Jim was that. And he's
there have been international remakes of American movies. You have to look them up because they're hilarious. There's one. There's one. I think it's I think there's one. It's a Turkish Star Wars. I think it's Turkish Star Wars, and there's also a Superman. I think there's a Turkish Superman. I can't. I might be saying the wrong country, but those two movies have been made for way less money for an international audience, and I think they're worth a watch just for the fun of it.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'll check it out. Did you know of any international remakes of American horror films?
I'm trying to think of any that. Well, there's one that I'm watching. I haven't finished it, but it's giving me all kinds of poltergeist. It's pretty much. It's called 32 Melisandre.
Oh, don't say anything else because that's on my watch list too.
Yeah, it's Spanish poltergeist.
Once we get that, once I review it as well, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the ending yet, so I don't know whether I watched the first like 30 minutes.
Okay, so don't tell me anything else. Don't tell me anything else. I didn't even, when I have movies to review, I watch the trailer and then that's it. I don't like look at anyone else's commentary. Like I have been like every time, because it's on my waiting list because I'm writing. So when I'm writing, I don't binge watch TV because then that's what I'll be doing and not writing. And so every time I see someone that says like Lovecraft Country, I scroll right by. I'm like, nope. I don't even.
Oh, you have.
I'm gonna be
when
so
you get a chance,
everybody.
When you get a chance, we have to talk about Lovecraft Country.
Okay.
Because of one major thing that was beautiful to me.
No.
I can't.
No.
Oh, it's not a spoiler. It's just a positive element.
Okay.
In horror history, very rarely do you see children of color being centered in a story, and even less a little Black girl. And in this, there's a few episodes where there's a 12-year-old Black girl who's the center of the story. And that just
can't wait to
touched
watch
my heart because I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One of the things I like about Lovecraft is when it's remade or re-envisioned by people of color. I really didn't start getting into Lovecraft until I started watching the re-envisionings that were coming out of the Latin-based community. Like, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? So like every time it's reimagined by a person of color, it's always that much better. And I don't know if it's that much better. The thing is, I couldn't really get into Lovecraft's writing style, not because he's a racist, and he is. It's just that okay, the characters are they're not making the smartest choices, and then they're confused when they've opened the chasm to the other world. Like,
I just don't find his writing that fun to read.
That you were going to somehow be victorious. Like, you saw the sign.
Arrogance.
Like, why are you chanting from a book you don't know what the words mean? Like, tangent. So yeah, okay, back to White God.
Like I was saying, that it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, especially for the technical aspects of working with that many dogs, training those dogs, telling this point of view, the story from the point of view of both the child and the dog. And it had something to say. I love horror that has something to say. Right, although when you think about it, I would say horror usually has more to say than not. It's kind of, people think that this is a whole new thing of having social commentary in horror. No, it's not. Horror itself is a social commentary a lot of times. But yeah, and this is a good double feature.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think we're both in agreement that White God is actually a remake of The Pack. Yes. But they're both still standalone movies. You don't need to watch one to watch the other. But I highly, highly recommend that you watch them both. Get some tissue. Like, I couldn't even get through this segment without crying because of the treatment of these animals in both films. Like in The Pack, even though they don't like show everything from the point of view of the dogs, you can't help but feel for them, especially since after every horrific thing a dog does, they break that up and they're justifying the dog's behavior. They're like, well, if they weren't tied to a damn tree and left here, they wouldn't be doing this. If they weren't so hungry, they wouldn't be doing this. Like, even though those dogs are absolutely vicious, they're out for blood, they are livid that they have been reduced to second class members of the family or just left abandoned, you know, they're mad. And it shows in the violence that they are portraying against the humans. Like every time Jim kills a dog, he feels hella bad because he's like, only if he would have been fed, only if like the first meets the leader of the pack, his son is like, well, why don't we just feed him? And Jim's like, well, this one we can't because he's been on his own too long. Like he's been on his own too long. And so then still compassion, because when he's loading the shotgun, he's loading it with a tranquilizer. He's not going out there to kill that dog, but he does want to go and get him because he's dangerous. He's dangerous because he's so mean and he's so alpha and he's not backing down because like when he was like, go, you know, the dog's like, who do you think you're dealing with? And so like right then he establishes himself as, I am the alpha. I will take you down. And Jim does not at all underestimate the danger of that animal.
I also have another thing that in my mind makes it also a remake. Even the way Hagan looks, he looks like the pack leader from the pack.
Yep, he does. Yep. I mean, neither of those dogs are white. They're golden. Yeah, they're golden. So,
and I like how in White God, the most cruel humans, you get to see their demise, and it feels great. Especially the guy that was training the dog to fight and abusing him. It was good to see him get got by the
and
dogs.
The woman who was in charge of the dog pound.
Yeah, euthanizing the dogs. Yeah.
But yeah, because in their country, for some reason, like they didn't want dogs there at all. I don't understand that. And so and that's one of the reasons why the dogs were like running the fuck away from the dog catchers, because all of their shelters, they don't have a shelter there. They have pounds. And they're kill shelters. I mean, they're not shelters because they're not trying to. There was an adoption day. But it was a sinister because what was facing the public, because that's when the revolt happened. What was public facing was not what was going on in those back kennels, and that's why Haggard was like, "It's now or never." Like it's now or never.
And in that particular country, or that area of the country, there seemed to be a big difference that they were making between the types of dogs, because they kept on saying mixed breed mutts. And there's even a scene where Hagan is at the corner and he's trying to cross a street, and a person walks up next to him with what appears to be a purebred Dalmatian, and it has a beautiful collar and all this fancy stuff on it. And just in that scene, you could see how people were looking at the purebred dog versus the so-called mutt.
Right. Yep, I forgot about that. So that's another like class system, right? So like even all the dogs that were in the pact in the White God, none of them. I thought though that Jack Russell looks like a Jack Russell, so I don't know.
They said that they were all mixed breeds, but the Jack Russell Terrier looked like a full Jack Russell.
And I think there was also a Dalmatian, but he didn't have that many spots, right? Yeah. So I guess they want, and that is one thing that happened. And now that Sasha's mentioned it, is like even on the news they were like, "Oh, we don't want any mutts in our." So
and it's such
all these dogs.
And it's such a misconception, because the worst dogs I've had have been. I had a purebred blue tick English hound dog. That dog was so hard to train. It was so hard-headed. At the same time, we had a dog that was half Doberman Pinscher and half Greyhound. She was beautiful, sleek, everything. She was so well trained. I was just about to say that sounds like a beautiful mixture. Yeah, but it was hard to walk. My brother used to have to ride his bicycle and walk her because they just walk so fast and their legs are long. So I never could. When I was a child, I could not walk that dog.
Like she's brown, so all she wanted to do was run.
And we're fortunate because we always had a large yard. Like I think the smallest yard I ever lived in, besides my own house, like my own house that I bought had the smallest yard. But my parents, I think the smallest house they had maybe was a 1/4 acre in the back.
Who the heck usually the lawn?
Oh, you get a riding lawnmower. But we usually lived on like several acres. It's nice. There was one point when I was in South Glastonbury, we couldn't see our neighbors, and it was so funny because my cousins that live in the city, they came to visit for the weekend. They were so scared. They were like, it's so quiet out here. Are there bears?
Oh my God.
I took them for a walk in the forest, and they were like, we're going to get lost. I'm like, we're not going to get lost. We're just like, how do you know how to get back? You know, oh, turn left at that tree? And I'm like,
city all the way.
They were supposed to spend the weekend. They only made it till like 11 p.m. Friday night, and I called my aunt and uncle to come pick them up because they were that scared.
Wow.
I said, see, now, next time when I come to the hood, you can't make fun of me anymore for not knowing that the ice cream truck sells more than ice cream. that was the biggest shock to me. People were going,
right, because they sold cigarettes.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
I know.
And now I still kind of live close to that. I live about, I would say maybe it's about a quarter-mile walk to a nature preserve. That's why my internet is kind of shady, because I'm in the outskirts of Orlando.
Oh my gosh. So then you see like alligators and stuff like that. That would drive me back to Seattle. If I was like sitting on your porch and one of those like dinosauric reptiles come crawling through the marsh, I'm on the plane back here. Are you kidding me? No.
Fortunately, I haven't seen it in this neighborhood, but outside the neighborhood, driving to the store, I have had to pull over and wait for an alligator to cross the road.
That's crazy.
But mostly they usually don't stay too far away from water. So as long as you don't live, like, I don't understand if people want to live on the lake. Like, you just want gators in your backyard? I'm never living on the lake in Florida. Living on the lake.
I saw something on Facebook where a gator ate some guy's Rottweiler, and someone commented, because I was like, oh my God.
Because usually they don't get dogs that big. Usually it's like a little Pomeranian or something.
And when there was a video, he came right up, took the dog right off the deck. And I was like, oh, I would be devastated, right? I would like, oh. And so then someone wrote underneath there, they're like, why do people act like alligators are a myth? And I was like, right? Like, they're not a myth. Like, oh my God.
That's like that couple that lost their baby to the alligator. Now that looks so shady to me, because if you look at that resort, the overhead view, it had 5 pools. There was literally in the resort pools, there's usually like a really large kiddie area. So you have no reason to even go by the natural water.
And along the marsh, it has signs that say live alligator population.
And even if you don't read English, there's a picture of the alligator on the sign.
With its mouth open, like, so like it's dangerous. Like, come on.
And I have it written in Spanish. It says, "No molestan los alligators." It's on there. So you took your baby over there. You was trying to get rid of your baby, and I don't trust you.
The dingo took my baby. So they're, like she said, it's a super good double features. We hope that you get to see them both. And I think, unless you have anything else to add to White God, or any more commentary to the Pack, no,
that's it.
Did you get a chance to see Night of the Wild?
No, I did not see that. I actually had Devil Dog next on the list of dog movies, or nature gone wrong movies.
So did you watch Devil Dog?
I will add that. No, I have it in my queue. I'm gonna write down Night of the Wild, because I don't think I wrote that one down.
Well, then maybe we can do those 2 movies as well.
The Wild. Yes.
It's an old sci-fi. It's not old sci-fi, but it's like it was a sci-fi channel movie, and it's really good. Again, the commentary, and I don't want to like say anything else, because maybe we'll talk about these movies for you guys as well, but like, check them out. The ones that I'm recommending to her are Devil Dog, which is another movie that we were talking about in our 3-part miniseries that brought you Coast to Coast Horror with Crystal and Shasha, and then Night of the Wild. I don't know if we were talking about that before, but it is another dog movie. What did you see? Oh gosh, The Breed. I think it might have been Clive Barker, but it has that tough girl from she's always plays a tough girl, and she's the Mexican girl from all of the Fast and the Furious movies.
Oh, Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, she's in that one.
I like her as an actress.
And so that's another movie that did practical special effects. And so again, because I watched the DVD extras, there's a scene in there where one of the actresses, they didn't use a stunt double. was running from the dogs and like the chasing. They're trying to get back in the house, and she was actually bit by one of the dogs because the dogs were in character, and then they revert back because it's like supercharged. You know, their trainers are yelling at them, the actors are like acting, and so, but she didn't let anybody know until after the scene was over, and they left it in the movie, and they're like, why didn't you say anything? And she's like, because it was more realistic. And they're like, dude, what? And another movie that has dogs, and they actually have wolves, and this movie is called Frozen, and it's about these three kids who end up.
I have seen that.
Yeah, and so in the extras in that movie, they were talking to the wolf handler, and he was saying like how to be safe. He's like, once these dogs are out of the kennel, like safety has to be key because these are not dogs, they're wolves. And if you wander off out there when you're supposed to be right here, like that's exactly what he did. And so like and you know, because once they are in that charged environment, they are animals. That's how in the breed house she got bit. You know, even though they were not wolves, they were militarized German shepherds, but they were in character. So like, of course she got bit, like, you know what I mean? But she didn't say anything, and they were just like the medic was there, and she ended up with stitches.
I wonder why they don't just use huskies when they want an animal that looks like a wolf.
Have huskies you seen a picture of a husky and a wolf side by side?
Well, I think the huskies are smaller than wolves, and they have shorter legs.
To get away with it, like you're just not. Like a husky doesn't look anything like a wolf. He just doesn't. So that's probably why. And then like wolf dog hybrids are even more unstable, unpredictable, and has the potential to be more dangerous than a wolf. So so you know, I think the theme of our show for today is don't be cruel to animals. And watch these movies. I watched the Pack on Tubi. And where did you stream White God?
That was on Amazon, not Prime. It was just regular Amazon streaming.
Oh, regular Amazon. Okay, so did you have to have Prime to have it?
No, it's on regular Amazon for $3.99. When I looked for the Pack, it wasn't on Tubi anymore. It was just on Amazon.
Oh, really? Yeah, I watched it. I watched it on Tubi. I was like, yes, free. But like I watched another movie that I reviewed. For my own channel, I'm doing From the Archives, and I re-reviewed a movie from 1998 called Baby Blues, and I had to.
Oh, was that on Tubi?
Nope, it was on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's on my list because remember how I was doing a Dollathon? I'm gonna go back and do more parts of my Dollathon as I come across the movies, but yeah, that's on my Dollathon.
So that's not about dolls, though.
I know it's more of a psychological thriller.
Right. Yeah.
But there is a doll in it, so I don't know.
No. Watch it. So which Baby Blues are you talking about? The one from Korea? I
don't think it's from Korea. I think it might be from China.
Okay, yeah. So the one I'm talking about is from the United States.
Oh no! It's not United States.
It does have a doll on the cover, but it doesn't have a doll in it.
Let me see if I can find the poster to show you. It's this one.
Okay, yeah, no. So here's the one. Here's the one from the one that I watched.
Probably that one, right? Yeah. They're side by side on the thing. Yeah.
So yeah, even though this Baby Blues has a doll on the cover, there's no doll in the movie. It's two different storylines, two different plots. Yeah.
Let me see what country this is from, because maybe you're right. Maybe it is Korean and not. I thought it was Chinese for some reason because the title said something Ying, and Ying usually makes me think it's a Chinese. No, because the writer's last name Park. No, that's Pack, not Park. I know Park is a Korean last name. Let me scroll and see what country. Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Okay.
Yeah, because usually I'm pretty good at picking out Korean names versus Chinese names. So I was gonna get excited if it was Korean, because South Korea makes some awesome movies.
They really, really do. Really do.
And their TV shows. Oh, their TV shows were it's a roller coaster
of emotion.
I watched one called Itaewon Class, and it has comedy, it has drama, it has thriller elements, and then it spans from the characters being in high school to when they're about 27 years old.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, within one season. Like the first three,
oh my God.
like the first 3 episodes are like when they're in high school and then something happens.
So they
and
must
it
have
comes
been
back.
like seniors.
Yeah, and then it comes back when they're like 24. Like it'll just come back, like it'll just say 3 years later, and then it'll jump to that. Yeah, but I thought that way of telling the story was pretty compelling.
I'm gonna check it out.
We should do that in America instead of like having like Riverdale and having people be in high school for 8 years. Like what this is, and on top of it, you already looked 26 when you started. This is wrong. These old actors playing high school students, they need to stop it.
Stop it all the way.
You can find a 20-year-old that looks 16. You really can. You don't have to.
What's her name? She's got green eyes and curly hair.
Are you talking about Stacey Dash?
Yes, she still looks 17.
Yeah, she was 20. 40? She was 28. She's got to be almost 50 now, but she was 28 when she was in Clueless.
Right? See what I mean? Like, there's get a whole black cast, and they all look like they're in high school still.
Yeah. So to close the video, I thought that both these movies made a really great double feature. Right now, they're both available on Amazon. Let me know in the comments if you guys find them elsewhere for free, because we always want to know where we can watch them free, whether it's Tubi or other like Roku apps. Have you seen The Pack or White God? What did you think of those? What do you think of dog movies or nature gone wrong movies in general? Let us know in the comments.
And if you have any other dog movies that we haven't mentioned, let us know, because like that's kind of like our theme right now. So we would love to know of any dog movies that we may have missed.
Definitely. And don't forget to like this video. Do us a favor and share it with somebody that you think might watch it, and smash that like button. All right, guys. Bye. Somebody show these people where the subscribe button is. They don't know what they're doing.